Well, good evening, everyone. It's time to start the October the 21st regular city council meeting, and welcome to all. Got front row seats for all this exciting stuff. And so, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Good evening, everyone. Councilmember Dennehy,
Good evening, here.
Maloney,
Here.
Schmisher,
Here.
Stein,
Here.
Tracy,
Here.
Worthington,
Here.
Hamrick,
Here.
Troutman.
Here. Is Alicia Swearingen? She's not here. So let's just do the Pledge of Allegiance. So we rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any citizens' requests to talk to council? I don't see any. Okay. Any comments or from city council members? Any appointments or anything you've been to in the last week or so, or 2 weeks that you'd like to tell us about? Andrea, go ahead.
Yes. I just wanted to remind people, for the last 3 years, I have served on every ditch board in the city that the city has water shares in. And it's been a long, hard journey. I've learned a lot about water rights and about water law. And there is a consistent issue that we face, and particularly the hydraulic ditch, which flows through the city, in that the laterals, I think there's a lot of misunderstandings about responsibilities and what it means to be on a lateral. And I just wanted to clear that up, just so there's no questions about it. Under Colorado water law, the main ditch, whether it's the hydraulic or South Canyon or the Deweese Dye ditch or any other ditch that may flow through in or near Canyon City, and this is for every city in the state of Colorado, the main ditch's responsibility is to deliver water to the head gate of a lateral. Laterals began many years ago when this was a ranching state, and farmers worked together to irrigate their land. It was in everybody's mutual interest to sit down and figure out how they were going to manage those laterals and keep them open and flowing. And pretty much everyone did that because they wanted their water to feed their stock, to irrigate their land. And pretty much all the trees and beautiful greenery that you see in this town, this is pretty much a high plains desert when you get away from the river valley. And we owe a lot to those irrigation ditches. And when you are on a lateral, you are responsible for maintaining the ditch that goes past your property. And that ditch was built, the hydraulic ditch was built in 1863. That was during the middle of the Civil War. So wherever you live or whatever your house is like, that ditch was there first, okay? And so what happens on laterals, if you live right on a ditch, it's a beautiful place. It's nice, it's a beautiful scene to see that water flowing past, and it's irrigating plants and trees. However, there's a lot of groundwater associated with those ditches. And if you have a basement or a crawl space, or even just, a low-lying part of your house, you're gonna get some flooding, depending on what's going on with the weather, how much rain we get, and so on. So that is your responsibility. And if you buy a house that is on a lateral, you are responsible for maintaining that part of the ditch, whether or not you own shares in the ditch. That's the biggest, I think, confusion, which is why the city has set up a program to help with that kind of maintenance that you can apply for. And our city engineer, Mr. Leo Evans, if you have questions about that, he has lots of information, and it's all on our website that you can look at and how that works. And no, it isn't going to pay for everything. It can't. But it is your responsibility, and it doesn't matter whether you didn't know about it. That's what it is. And I know it seems unfair, but it's Colorado water law. And the flip side, which is darker and perhaps a bit uglier, is that we are a compact state, and we are responsible as owners of ditch shares and managers of ditches. We're responsible for that water. We have to account for it because we're under a water watch of where it goes. If someone is trying to modify that lateral in any way and it causes flooding because you don't get along with your neighbors, then we're all going to be facing a fine, including the ditch itself, the main ditch. So it's just kind of, it's a hard decision that we all have to make and face, but that's what it is. And if anyone wants to talk about that, you can call me, but it's water law, Colorado water law. I can't change it, you can't change it. And if you want to sue a ditch company, that's your prerogative, but you need to, if you're going to do that, you're going to need a water attorney probably to do that, and that's going to be really expensive. And at the end of the day, they've been here since 1863. So the whole lateral thing has gotten out of control. And I would suggest that if anyone does have a question about it, just let us know. Let me know. My name and number is on the website. You can call me. But I just wanted to make clear the air so that we understand what the water law is. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. Amy.
Thanks, Preston. I have two committee updates. The Red Canyon Trails Committee met today up at Red Canyon Park. We walked a good portion of the trail. Our city trail builder believes that he's on pace to complete it by the end of the year, which is fantastic. We had originally been hoping for a little bit earlier in the year, but due to the storm that folks may remember that occurred late this spring, a lot of his work and time was diverted to fixing some of the trails up at Royal Gorge Bridge and Park. But it's well on pace. It's an absolutely beautiful, stunning, scenic trail. Huge shout out to our museum director who did a lot of research into what some of those formations were originally named a little over 100 years ago. So as we're, as a committee, looking at trail names and kind of spur names and formation names, we'll certainly be taking that under advisement in terms of what the history tells us about it. Also wanted to flag that the regular meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission will be in these chambers tomorrow at 4 p.m. Two main topics are the design guidelines that they've been working on now for several months, as well as the 2025 CLG grant proposal. So if folks are interested in coming out for that, they're also always recorded and available on our Facebook page. Thanks.
Thanks, Amy. So the trail you're talking about, can you park there in that parking lot before you go into the bridge? Or
so this is up in Red Canyon Park.
Red Canyon, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're
so there's
right.
parking both kind of right as you come in off the road. They'll be widening that a bit to enable horse trailers to turn around and to park there. And then there's parking at the first bathrooms, and then there's parking at the second bathrooms, and then eventually kind of in the middle of the trail system, there will be another parking lot that our Director of Public Works, who is not here tonight, but who Leo and Rex have been looking at in terms of where the best spot would be that's already pretty cleared and won't require a lot of tree removal. It's all in all about a 3.5-4 mile system, and it's really just one big loop with some spurs off to some of the prettiest and best views.
Yeah.
But they've made a lot of progress on it already, and it's a really incredible, stunning trail system. They've also taken, this trail system is specifically designed for all user groups that are non-motorized. So they've taken a lot of consideration and thought into what would work best and what would work well for equestrian users as well. And we're lucky to have a member of the Backcountry Horse People on that committee who's able to provide expert guidance as well.
Well, thank you. That's an amazing park. Enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Okay, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to remind everybody that we do have a budget hearing this Wednesday, starting at 5 o'clock. I do have a E911 and a CRCA meeting and a Water Committee meeting scheduled for later. So our next meeting, I'll have an update on those.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? None? I do have to announce that I will be a celebrity waiter at this spaghetti feed at Pathfinder Park for the Chamber of Commerce. And if you come there, don't harass me because you'll get no salad or something. I don't know. But we have a good time. So, but it's this Friday evening at Pathfinder Park. So, anyone else? No, at this time then, this is the great part of the meeting, and I have to invite our Human Resource Director, Butch Batchelor, to come forward and do a presentation for us.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, other distinguished participants at the dais. I know that once you looked at the agenda for tonight's meeting and you saw that we were doing employee recognition, you got as excited as I am. This is our one time during the month that we get to recognize our employees who have shown some dedication to the city, and they have decided to stay with us for a while. So we're going to recognize them for their longevity. Unfortunately, although we had 3 individuals listed on the agenda for this evening, only one will be here with us. The other 2 weren't able to join us, but we will get one of them at a later meeting. And so it is my honor to present the person we're recognizing this evening. This is Patrick Martin. Patrick is receiving his 5-year pin. Patrick was hired on October 28, 2019 as a Building Inspector 1. On October 28, 2023, Patrick was advanced to Building Inspector 2, a position he currently holds. And as you know, whenever we recognize our employees, we always provide the department directors an opportunity to also come up and say some words, hopefully good, about their employees. Kathy?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Patrick's been a real asset to our building department. He's come a long way in 5 years. He has learned a lot. He's very conscientious about getting along with people and all the contractors. He's learned all the building inspections to this point, and he continues to learn as he goes. So I want to thank you, Patrick, for, oh, there he is. He's hiding behind, he's always hiding behind me somewhere. So he's really dedicated his time to the city in the building department.
Sir, that is for you, and so is that. That's your 5-year pin. Congratulations. And so, if I could get council and the other members back.
Let's do it.
We'll get a picture. All right. We're not here. You should be excited, because normally they have to share this with like 2 or 3 other employees. You're the focus, buddy. Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to the consent agenda. I'd ask the city administrator to review the agenda and the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The consent agenda, item 8A is to approve the minutes for the regular city council meeting on October 7th, the general government meeting on October 9th, and the special meetings on September 19th, Coffee with the Cop, September 24th, the Art Committee, September 25th, the Water Committee, October 7th, an executive session, October 7th, city county meeting, and October 11th, community agency funding. 8B is to authorize Stantec to apply for an EPA cleanup grant. 8C authorizes the mayor to sign a cost-sharing and common interest agreement with the city of Florence. 8D is to approve community agency funding for fiscal year 2025. 8E is to approve the Public Art Committee bylaws. 8F is to receive and file monthly budget summary, and 8G is to receive and file cash disbursements.
Were there any additions or corrections or questions to the, who?
Emily.
Emily? Emily, do you have questions?
Yeah, I just had a brief comment in regard to 8B, and then I was hoping that there would be some discussion on 8D, on how the recommendations were made regarding community agency funding.
Okay, did everybody get a copy of what actually the funding was to different entities? So we've seen that. And the discussion on Stantec, do we want to have a discussion on that, or that's for the request for an overall sum, which could also take in the other brownfield, essentially, sites to take care of them, such as Skyline Steel and that. So that's where, is that where you're going with that, Emily, or?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a brief comment in regard to that, and I had emailed the city administrator about this, and so perhaps you all saw that, but I just wanted to be sure that folks understand that I don't believe that the city-owned property that was purchased to eventually extend the cemetery grounds, I don't believe that that will be under brownfield grant. It won't be able to be cleaned up under that because it's already under a different federal law, which is the Federal Superfund law. It is in operable Unit 1 of the Cotter Superfund site. And as the city is aware, there was a letter sent a little over 3 years ago to the city providing details about what that operable 1 Superfund site declaration means for the city, and that certain things can't be done, and there's certain things that the city will need to do to be sure that they don't take on liability for possible past contamination. So I just wanted to make public note of that I don't believe, and certainly the EPA project manager for the Cotter site could provide more information, but I don't believe it would come under brownfield at all. So that was my comment on that, and then I'll wait for the discussion on the community agency funding.
Okay,
And
thank you, Emily.
we agree, we probably will not be eligible for cleanup funds from the brownfield cleanup grant. And I think I included city council in that response from Rick Harmon, our economic development manager. Rick, do you have anything else you want to say regarding the application?
Not really. I mean, that's accurate. What we learned after we put out the initial RFP was that any property that we had that didn't already have an analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives, which is an ABCA, does not qualify for the grant anyway. We only have 2 properties right now that are even close to having an ABCA, and those are being worked on right now. The others that were listed in the proposal, since we were told that, we listed as other activities just to give consultants an idea of the activity we have in the area. So really it's going to be Skyline Steel and New Method Laundry that would qualify for cleanup grant.
And the Black Hill site would not?
Not right now, it's not in ownership of the city, and it
That's
has
true.
not had an ABCA
Yeah.
done
okay.
on it.
I got it, yeah.
But it's out there, you know, I requested the EPA have a grant similar to a brownfield grant where you can have cleanup money available for funds for sites that ultimately become owned by the city. However, this isn't written that way. This grant has to be for properties that are already qualified under an analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives.
And that doesn't mean that we can't apply for additional funding for
Correct.
additional sites as they get closer to that process.
Okay.
And there is possibility also for properties that don't have an ABCA now, there could be Colorado Department of Health and Environment funding as well later on. So,
Amy?
Thank you. I also wanted to have a more robust conversation around community agency funding, so I'll hold that in case someone else had
Okay.
comments on Stantec or on
Okay.
Brownfield.
Thank you. Any other discussions for the Stantec? That would be item B. We're okay with that for now? All right, then let's move on to the agency funding, which is D. Amy, go right ahead.
Thank you. I was hoping to just hear a bit about how the decisions were made, particularly around those that were not funded and those where the amount requested was lowered.
Okay.
Thank you.
We had, the budget calls for $55,000 in community agency funding. We had $80,578 requested, which is a considerable amount more than $25,500 more. So when the applicants came in to make their presentations, we did let all of them know that there was that much of an excess being requested. So we let them know that it was certainly possible that they would not get all that they were asking for, or any of what they were asking for, or if they were applying for more than one program. In that case, we asked them to tell us if we couldn't fund both programs, or three, if they had three, which one would they want, which was their favorite program they would want funded. So that helped us a lot, that they could tell us that. So some of the specifics. Okay, so first of all, the first one you'll see there that didn't get funded was Fremont Adventure Recreation, their trail accessibility rating survey, where they asked for $2,500. We gave them $0, and that's because the city has other funds that are possibly available for this, which we're looking into.
What are those funds?
Tammy?
So each year in our parks budget, we do set aside funding for ADA accessibility and improvements and such. And so that's what we are looking at, using some of those funds to do that.
Thank you.
The next one on the list here that didn't receive, that only received partial funding was the Crime Stoppers, Fremont County Crime Stoppers. They requested $4,000. We gave them $2,000. We gave them the $2,000 they were asking for in operating costs. We didn't give them the $2,000 they were asking for in reward payouts. Because the committee doesn't feel the city can pay the rewards for crime tips. And they asked for that last year as well, which we didn't award them. And actually, I'm going to call Tammy DeWolf after this round and tell her that she shouldn't request that amount anymore for the rewards, that we can't give that to them. The next one, Hope House requested $1,500. We didn't give them anything because she was a no-show. and it's clear in the application that you have to make it to your presentation to get an award. JJ's Helping Paws, they applied for 2 programs, a spay-neuter voucher program and trap-neuter return program. We asked her which one, if we could only fund one, which one she felt was more important, and she wanted the spay-neuter voucher program. So that's the one we funded for them. Next one that only received partial funding was Matt Dangle's house. And that's a first-time applicant. We'd never got one from them before. Matt Dangle's house is a residential recovery residence for individuals recovering from drug and alcohol addiction. And they asked for $6,000 for recreation, basically for bicycles, $3,400, rafting and bowling. We ended up giving them money for bicycles. They asked for $3,400 for 10 bicycles. They only currently have 4 residents, so we gave them enough money for 5 bicycles. That was his preferred program that he wanted it for, because not only can they use that for recreation, they can use that for transportation to get to jobs, court appearance, etc., because a lot of them don't have licenses. Their licenses have been removed. We're also...
Sorry,
I'm
just
sorry.
on that one, because it is a new entity for us. That is a 501c3 that's based here in Canyon City.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
All of these have to be 501c3s. I am also looking into to see if they could be eligible for some of our opioid money. Yeah. And also, Tammy suggested that maybe we could supply some of the bikes from the PD's impound lot. So I'm going to call over there and see if maybe we can do that too for them.
And even if they could use them for parts, because I know the police department has said that the ones that they take to scrap aren't really worth anything, and so there might be some parts that they can harvest.
Next partial award was Meals on Wheels. They're a first-time applicant. They asked for $5,000. We gave them $2,000, partly because they're a first-time applicant, but also because we were a little concerned about their fiscal health. In 2023, they reported a loss of almost $22,000, and for the current year, they actually budgeted for a loss of $12,000. So we thought we'd just sort of wait and see how they do.
We had also asked them if they could let us know how many participants they have that are actually within city limits. He wasn't quite sure about that. The other concern that we had with them partly was the funding. They could not provide us the account of participants, and then they made another comment that was kind of interesting to us, that even though they are Meals on Wheels, they're not part of the national organization, which that was kind of interesting. So, and I don't recall why he said that they weren't part of it. So that just seems kind of odd, but.
That was Nature's Educators, we did not suggest we give them any money. Wildlife Conservation Program, basically they were going to go into the schools and do just presentations and stuff, take their birds into schools and do things like that. And we felt really, for two reasons, there were a lot of really important community service programs that have asked for money this year that we felt were more important than this. And also, we felt this is something that perhaps the schools that they were going into could help fund. Royal Gorge Philharmonic, he asked for $2,738 for music stands, an electronic keyboard, and folders to hold the musicians' music. When we asked him what was the most important, he said they could really use the electronic keyboard. So we suggest funding the electronic keyboard and throw in the additional $400 for the music folders. Royal Gorge Rio, their life jacket program, we funded them 2 years ago for $1,400, which lasted them 2 years. This year they're asking for $2,000. We asked him, can you make 1,500 work? And he said yes. He can make 1,500
he
work.
is the one who said.
Oh, he said
He
it.
did say
Okay.
that I can get this done for 1,500. He did actually say that.
Oh,
So it
okay.
made our recommendation fairly easy to come up with that number.
Teasingly, we recommended a sales class for him so that,
I
he'd
forgot
ask for the
that.
full amount,
So,
We really appreciated his honesty in that too, and the fact that he's got some really amazing sponsors that are working with him to fund those programs, as well as looking forward to adding another PFD station when Black Hills Energy site becomes a public open space.
the bridge, pardon?
The youth center.
I think she's going over the ones that we didn't fund 100% on. You're good.
Right, yeah. So the bridge requested 2 programs. Their high-speed internet, they asked for $2,200. We've been funding their internet for several years now, and it only costs $94.95 a month. So we've been funding them for $1,200 a year, so we suggest that you give them $1,200 a year. So I don't know why they asked for an extra 1,000 there.
His request for the extra 1,000 included their staff Wi-Fi as well.
Oh, that's
And
right.
so
Sorry.
we did not recommend that. We recommended the one that is for the children, the
kids.
students or
Yeah.
participants. Yep.
Thank you for being my memory. And then they also asked for $4,000 for skills stations. And we suggest $0. Brandy, could you speak on this? The iPads and what that entails
Absolutely.
with the kids having their own Chromebooks?
Yes, thank you. The kids all that go to public school receive laptops that they can do all of those skills on. I have a couple kids in school who have their own laptops that they can bring home and do those skills that they were talking about in those programs. So we didn't find that it was necessary to fund new computers and laptops for them when the kids have those accessible and can bring them with them for those programs.
Do we, I don't know the stats on this at all, but do we have a sense of how many kids at the bridge don't go to our school district?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm just
Nope.
curious if this came up in the conversation with them and if they had a reason why they thought that it was necessary, given that there are
Yeah.
Chromebooks in our schools.
And $4,000, I don't know, $4,000 for, 2 iPads. It just seems, with the kids having their own Chromebooks and stuff, seemed like a lot of money.
It just seemed like it wasn't a pertinent expenditure for the need of the town. And if those kids are not in our school districts and not in our city, I don't feel like that's a justifiable cost for a community agency for our city.
I mean more like homeschooling or
Yeah.
folks
Oh, right.
I would also
They
add,
didn't express
based
that
on,
need.
I'm sorry, I was going to say also based on the fact that the Boys and Girls Clubs have lesson plans and things that way for a lot of these skills. Frankly, we thought that there was a better alternative with better lesson plans set up.
Got it. Thank you.
And finally, the pantry. The pantry is the food pantry. They asked for $7,500, and we suggest $5,000. Over the past 4 years, we've given them between $3,000 and $7,000. And there have been some years where we've actually given them more than they asked for, so they sort of keep asking for more. So we just came to the decision to suggest $5,000 for them.
And the reason in the past that we may have recommended that they were funded higher was it was during COVID and we had less applicants, and so we had more money to spread around, and so food insecurity was a huge thing. It continues to be a huge thing, but we felt that we needed to cut it back to about what they had been requesting prior.
Thank you so much for that detailed rundown. And also, I know that in our packet, it's only 2 pages, but as evidenced by the binder in front of you, Mary Pat, a lot of staff time and work goes into this. And I just think it's an incredible resource and benefit, not only to these organizations, but to folks across our city. And I just want to acknowledge and appreciate the time that y'all spent on it, and also Councilmember Worthington as our council representative. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. There's a hand. Oh, Emily, yes.
Thanks. Yeah, I too appreciate, I'm sure we all appreciate the work that goes into this. And I wasn't able to serve on the subcommittee this year. I was out of town the day that it met. But I know from serving at least 1 year in the past that for me anyway, it was important to look at the budget information that these entities provide to help make that decision. And I guess my first question is, did you get good comprehensive information from all of these organizations in regard to what their various revenue sources are and how this request fits into what they already have? So, and then I have a comment or two after that.
Yeah, they all submitted income statements, balance sheets, budgets, etc. And they also, in a part of the application, they have to put other grants that they've applied for and whether they've received grants.
Right, thanks. That's good to hear. I would, if it were just me making the decision, I personally would like to see JJ's Helping Paws be funded on both of its requests. And a big part of my opinion on that just comes from reading information pretty regularly about the work that they do. And that trap, neuter, release program is just so important to keep down the population of feral cats in the Canyon City area. I won't go into the details about how fast cats can reproduce, but if they weren't doing the diligent work that they're doing, we would really see a major problem within the community. And then I guess I just would want to be sure on the Pantry of Fremont, I would love to see us fund their full request if possible, if they really, showed how that would be spent and that it is a need. And my other comment is, I know when I served in the past, looking at the information from the different entities, the applicants, the Canyon City Pregnancy Center seemed to have some very substantial sources of other funding or other sources of funding. And, this is proposing to give them, if I'm reading this correctly, over $9,000 for 2 different programs, and that just, I would like to cut back some on that and maybe turn that money back over to, the requests from JJ's Helping Paws and from the pantry. And I certainly be interested to hear what others think, but I know that at least in the past, unless something major has changed, that the Pregnancy Center gets very large amounts of revenue from national organizations and other sources. So I really would like to see us cut back on what we put there.
Emily, just to give you, you may not be aware of it, there is another group now in town that does work with the cats as far as fostering and also doing some of the other services that JJ Paws does. So there's another organization out there that is also working with the cats. So I just thought I'd fill you in on that.
You're not saying that they applied for funding?
No, they did not, but I'm just saying that
okay.
Luckily there's another group out there that's trying to take care of the feral situation also.
Right, and so I just know that they really have a very well-organized group of volunteers and, medical providers that help with what they do, and they provide a lot of services not only to pet owners but also to our feral cat colonies around the community.
And when we asked what the priority was, she felt that the spay and neuter vouchers were more important because it also goes hand in hand with the trap, neuter, and release, because she had stated that some of the feral cats become parents because of domestic pets that get out. And so she felt that by having the vouchers funded, that actually still helps with the feral cat colonies. So that was something else that she did bring up.
So are there any additional comments about just that, I call it a discrepancy in funding, over, what is it, $9,400 to the Pregnancy Center, and yet we're saying no to some other entities for their requests. So I just have concerns about that. And again, if their budgeting and their revenue streams have changed markedly since I saw their budget a year or two ago, then I'd love to hear about that. But since they have such healthy revenues from other sources, I'm hesitant to commit over $9,000 of city money toward that.
Okay.
May I?
Yeah, I have 2 people waiting here, so go ahead, Mayor Pat.
Okay, just their income statement, the Pregnancy Center, income statement for 2022, their bottom line was $12,000 in the black. So, and in 2023, 21,000 in the black. So it's, it's just for informational purposes. They aren't going crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it just sounds as if they're fairly healthy financially, and some of these other organizations are providing really good services to the community, and yet, struggle, I think, in the funding area because they don't have national sources of funding, or maybe they don't have much of that.
Okay.
Just a thought.
All right, thank you, Amy.
I have a Rogue box, so it keeps on lighting up.
Okay.
Without me pushing the button.
Well, we're not going to fund your Rogue box.
Please do not fund
Okay.
the Rogue box.
John, is your
Thank
Rogue?
you. No, mine is
Okay,
not Rogue.
all right, well,
I have 2 questions and then a comment. Were there any new organizations that submitted for the first time this year?
Yes, Matt Dangle's House and Meals on Wheels. Oh, and, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, Nature's Educators.
Nature's Educators. Thank you. Were there any requests funded this time, but were not funded in the past.
Right, not other than these new applicants.
New applicants, sure. That would be the exception. Thank you. My comment is, you know, I have been able to serve on the Community Agency Funding Committee since its inception, but because of a family issue, I was not able to this year. And I would say, you know, that really, you know, sitting through all of the presentations and listening, taking the information in, and then making a recommendation to us on funding, that unless we have some really compelling reason to change the recommendations, I think that that's why we set up the committee, is to make those recommendations to us. It is our responsibility overall, but my inclination would be to trust the people that we asked to look at this, that they did the best job they could.
Thank you, John. Tim?
Thank you, and I agree with John 100%. You know, the people who were on this committee, you know, everything was thoughtful on this, and I'm just going to make one comment, and it's I understand that feral cats are important to get rid of them, but I think it's a lot more important for us to fund the pregnancy center. And if you've ever been in there, and I've been in there because I've cooked pizzas there a few times back when we had our business. And then I was in there a few times this year helping another friend of mine. But if you go in there and really see what they do and help the people that they help, I don't think that we could even think of lowering their funding to give it to a cat that's out on the streets.
Any other comments you'd like to make at this time? Okay, and then there are no additions or corrections? Then I'd like to ask for a motion of City Council to approve the agenda and the consent agenda. Amy?
Sorry, I do have additional questions on another consent agenda item. I had thought when you asked for questions, it was about the community agency funding.
Okay, so you want to move to your questions on something else?
Yes, if that's all right.
Okay.
Thank you. I just want to make sure on 8C, which is signing the cost sharing and common interest agreement with the City of Florence, the way that we are proposing to split the costs with the City of Florence is on a per capita basis, which would mean that we are paying 80% and they are paying
I think it's 82,
82% and they are paying 18%. And I just want to ensure that we are not paying more than we would be paying if we were not entering into this joint common cost sharing agreement with them. I'm all for pooling resources and ensuring that we're, you know, doing the best for the taxpayers, but we really need to make sure that we are doing what's in the best interests of the people of Canyon City. So has that cost analysis been done, and are we confident that this is actually saving the people of Canyon City money? Thank you.
I don't know that we've done a cost analysis to that level of detail. We have two witnesses. They're going to have one witness. I think there is the pooling of the resources. There's also the aligning the efforts as well for the overall intervention in the rate case. There's strategic parts of that I don't know that you can bake into that cost analysis.
Right, but if we were funding this separately versus if we're funding 82% of the overall effort, what is the cost difference between those two? Because when I first started reading this, I assumed that we would be sharing at 50-50. We're two separate municipalities that are entering into an agreement. We both independently chose to intervene. We would both independently be bearing those costs. So I was a bit surprised to see that it not only was not 50-50, but that it's 82-18. So I want to make sure that we are not paying for Florence's intervention, because I do not think that that is fair for the people of Canyon City.
I can go back and ask the energy attorneys if how many extra hours there would be if it was separated. But I don't have that answer right now, no.
So it's a per capita. So their population is quite a bit smaller than ours. And it's, what, it's about 3,000, 3,500, and we're 17,400, 500, something like that. So that's probably where that was defined.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
how
that's-
they are choosing
Sure.
to split it, but they could choose to split it on we have two municipalities, we should both be paying 50%, or they could choose it, choosing to split. How did we come to the decision to split it on a per capita basis, the costs?
It seems like the fair way to do it based off of the impact it's going to have on the ratepayers in each community. I don't know that Florence would have entered into an agreement without us being part of asking them to join our effort.
I had thought that they had independently chosen or selected or decided to intervene.
I believe that might have been Pueblo. Pueblo decided to go on their own, but I don't know. Did Florence? I don't.
I know that we had talked with them about potentially joining with us in our effort, but I don't know that they would have intervened on their own if it wasn't a joint effort.
Do we have a sense yet as to what the overall cost incurred has been thus far? Like 82, if it's 82% of 10,000 or if it's 82% of 100,000, that's a pretty significant difference in my book.
Yeah. I don't know that those bills run through our attorney's office, and I don't know that Catherine sees those bills.
I do.
You do?
But
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head how much they've billed, so I would have to look, sorry.
Didn't we set a cap on that at like $50,000 or something for 24? Catherine?
My 2 cents is not based on the dollars, but the impact of having another town, city, or province, so to speak, enter into the intervention has a huge impact as far as positive impact for us as ratepayers. I think by showing that on as an actual intervention, and Emily might have a better take on that with her experience, but I would say that it gives us a very big impact, positive impact, and it, yes, it may have cost us a few extra dollars, but I don't see how it would be. I think we're getting a better benefit out of it than for the few extra dollars it might have cost us.
I think
Does that make
Amy's
sense?
point is it might not be a few extra dollars. If it was going to be 50,000 to us, does that mean it's also 50,000 to Florence, which we're taking on 82% of that?
No, I
So
don't.
that's the question. I'm not saying that's what it is, but
Yeah.
that's the question that's being proposed. Are we?
Yeah, a lot of the work, and Catherine, maybe correct me if I'm wrong from a legal process standpoint, a lot of the work that the attorney is doing is, they would have been doing the same work for us versus Florence. I think the additional time that's coming in is, they have to interview the Florence witness in addition to everything else that they are doing to prepare for the case. And that's where those extra hours would come in, but not necessarily. I mean, everything else that they would be doing for us, they're attaching Florence's name to it as well, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and it's helpful to know that Florence would not have likely intervened were they not attaching themselves to our case.
I think it may have been cost prohibitive for them if they had done it separately.
That was my understanding, and knowing the players involved here, that they were just not going to get involved because of the cost. And I encouraged the mayor and to get involved. I mean, why wouldn't they? And so that, I believe if we went back and said 50-50, that would have been a non-player. So, but before we do, Tammy and Mary Pat and Brandy, thank you for. Do you have any money for community agency to pay for this bill? No? Okay, well, thank you. And Brandy, she gone away, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. All right. Any
I'm
more
sorry,
discussion?
I think Catherine may have had a comment.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm good. Sounds like you've gotten to a place wherever
Okay.
that place may be.
Okay, Amy, did your rogue box? Is
No,
this for real?
This is for real.
Okay,
I
good,
did
good.
just want to ask about the Public Art Committee bylaws. I believe that there have been changes that have been made since they were last reviewed by the Public Art Committee.
There were some, I guess it has not gone back to Public Art Committee. The one issue that you had mentioned, though, that is not in the bylaws. That's in a,
That's in the deed, the donation document,
Yeah.
so.
I just wasn't sure if we wanted to amend these bylaws were adopted by the Public Art Committee on X date, signature of the chairperson, because the Public Art Committee did not adopt this version. If we wanted to change that to these bylaws were referred by the Public Art Committee.
I think as staff, we would be amenable to that change.
And then
Brian,
just-
would you have, any say on that? We're expecting at least a 20-minute address. No, I'm kidding. So, Amy, that would make, could we do that then, just that? So-
Yeah, when you make the motion, just as amended.
How far have we gone? Are we ready for a motion? Question? Okay, I'll ask for a motion and a second at this time. Would someone like to make a motion? A motion?
Mayor
As
Troutman?
amended.
You
Yes.
have the amendment
I'd
to the
like to make a
motion.
motion.
Councilperson Amy Smisher, do it.
I would like to move that we approve the consent agenda as amended in 8E, to change adopted by to referred by, and the agenda as written.
I'll second.
Second, is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Because I have a difference of opinion about the way the agency funding breaks out, I'm going to vote no.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
And apologies, Mr. Mayor, this is a motion to approve the consent agenda and agenda.
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Aye.
Thank you. All right, then, we will invite the city administrator to do his report. We've long been waiting for this, city administrator, so go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. You have the written reports, a couple of items of note. The city staff did participate in the Wish for Wheels bike build that's had 114 second graders receive bikes through that effort. Those went to second graders in Washington Elementary and Harrison K through 8 school. We have the Streets and Public Works Department is collaborating with the school district and the high school regarding the missing sidewalk along Yale. There's about 700 feet of sidewalk where the school district is prepping the site and the city is installing the sidewalk over there. That's coming out of our miscellaneous concrete item. We are working with Wholesome. I know Councilmember Schmisher is eagerly awaiting a phone number. We do not have that phone number yet, but we are told that they are printing the number on business cards so we can hand them out when asked. As soon as we have more information on that, I'll be sure to send that information over. Let's see here. And then, the last item in the initial summary is regarding the pool and the very generous donation that was given by the Biggerstaff Charitable Giving Fund. $1 million to the pool effort, broken out to $100,000 a year for 10 years. It is a very generous donation and from a very giving family. So I want to say thank you again from the city to the Biggerstaff family for that contribution. It is greatly appreciated. That, of course, is a contribution that will happen if all measures of the pool issues pass on Election Day. One item that is not in the administrator reports that I'm looking for a little bit of guidance from council on is regarding the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments. They are currently working on their dues for the counties that pay into the Council of Governments. As municipalities, we do not pay into the Council of Governments. They are looking to add an additional position, and that position is a Director of Partnership and Capacity Building. This position, a similar position, was previously funded through a grant position, which was a grant coordinator position that they received funds from the state for. The funding for that position is ending, and they saw a benefit from it, and they want to create a permanent position for this. They've asked each of the counties to help fund that position. We did hear back from Fremont County, who's not willing to pay the extra money. What the COG has asked is whether or not the city would be able to or be willing to pay into the Council of Governments to help fund this position. They're looking for $4,571.75 from the city of Canyon City, the same amount from the city of Florence, and then that would still require the county to put in $9,143.50. So I'm looking for some guidance. I can send more information to council about the position with the job description. One of the things that they see this position working on is regional transportation and some other regional type of efforts, both in Fremont County and across the COG member counties. So,
Andrea?
Ryan, when you first started discussing this, you said that the county commissioners said they were not going to contribute, correct? So then where's that 9,000 going to come from?
They were not willing to do it at 18,000. I guess the counter to that was if the city of Canyon City and the city of Florence were willing to put in, well, would the county pay for half of it? Well, we don't know. We don't know at this point.
Okay,
That's
but we
something
don't
they're
know
Yeah,
but
that's something they're going to have to they'd have to reconsider and come back.
And so, I'm kind of confused about the county commissioners and what their can we trust them to pay the 9,000, or are they going to change their minds?
I think if they were to agree to it, it would be, that we have a COG board meeting on Wednesday, so I'm sure that this will be a discussion at the Wednesday meeting.
We're all members of the UACOG, correct?
We're all members of UACOG. The counties actually pay dues based on a per capita calculation. And the cities, while we are members, we do not pay anything into the Council of Governments.
So traditionally, then, the county pays a per diem. And by the way, we're in the county. We are members, we're citizens of this county. So I don't know how. I don't know how, do we have an assurance that they will go along with this?
I think if they don't go along with it, we would not be participating. It's an all or nothing deal.
All right. I just wanted to clarify that because it was kind of confusing.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the other counties that are members have agreed to fund the position from their budgets, their share of the position from their budgets.
Okay. So, but because the other counties have a lot more money? Okay. Thank you.
John?
Thank you. Maybe I heard the answer to this already, but the UACOG, their approach is if the county does not fund the 18,000, does this position go away, or do they still try to create the position?
I think that remains to be seen. If Fremont County, if the funding doesn't come from Fremont County, I think, will the other counties chip in for it? That's a great question. Again, we will have a board meeting on Wednesday, and I imagine that some of this will be a discussion.
And the follow-up to that is also the same question, if the, if the two cities kick in the 9,000, but the county commissioners don't, does the position still go forward? And you're essentially asking us for guidance on what stands to take in these negotiations.
Yeah, if council is amenable to this, this would be something that we would have to, probably talk about at the budget hearing and make an adjustment to our budget if that's something we want to move forward with.
With the 4,000?
Yes.
Okay. I think Emily had her hand up. Emily, go ahead. I think you
Yes,
had your-
thanks. And thanks, City Administrator Stevens, for clarifying that as I recall, there are 4 counties in the region, the Upper Arkansas Council of Governments region. And if I understood correctly, you're saying all counties except for Fremont have agreed to pay a share of this position. So that's helpful to know. I would like to see, as you said, you would be sending more information about the position and job description or whatever you have on that. It does sound like it's something that would be worthwhile. I generally would be in support of us assisting with that, but let me just ask it this way. It seems unusual that there would be any expenditure with the Council of Governments where any county would say, well, no, we're not going to support that, so we're going to withhold our portion of the money on that. Is that only happening because this is a new position that's not funded in an existing budget? I'm just a little concerned about, what if all the counties decided they were going to withhold money for things they don't like or don't feel that they can financially support?
Yeah, so this is a new position, and that is why the executive director of the COG is asking for this additional funding. They didn't want to make it necessarily part of their annual dues because that would mean the dues would increase substantially. So they have broken it out, for next year, what the dues are with and without the position.
And if I could just ask a follow-up to that, then would this be an issue then every year, or would they try to fold it into their budget at some point, or do we just not know that?
I think that this would be an ongoing expense, so this would, this would likely be an ongoing contribution from the cities to the Council of Governments.
And that was my other question I just remembered. Are there any other municipalities in any of the other counties that are being asked to assist, or is it just Canyon City and Florence?
The other counties are funding the requested ask.
So that request is not being made of them. Got it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thanks. I look forward to seeing more information.
Okay, thanks, Emily. Amy?
Thank you. Do we know why Fremont County doesn't feel like this would be an appropriate thing for them to fund?
It's my understanding it's due to budgetary constraints.
Thank you. And we currently, I know you've mentioned that we don't pay dues, but we don't currently contribute anything to UACOG. Is that correct?
Correct.
So this would also be setting a precedent that the city could potentially be a gap filler, which I guess I would want a lot more information about what specifically this position would be doing and how it would directly benefit the people of Canyon City. It makes me concerned to kind of set that kind of precedent, especially when it's an annual ongoing expectation. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yes, I can send out more information by tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that too, because I don't know what it was entailed, and again, just piggybacking on all parties is what benefit specifically do we think we get for the city, and it probably would be an ongoing expense. So I'd like to see that as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
John, go
just
ahead.
to further comment on that, I think, based on the discussion that I've heard this evening, I think it would be, just stepping back from the particular problem we're facing, I think it would be bad for us to set a precedent that we are gap funding as a municipality. I mean, this is a county issue, and if the county has some, we may just have to go along with what the county does, is what we do. But find out more, and the, do you need, what exactly are you asking us for now?
I guess this discussion.
Okay.
And I will send out the information, and if you have more questions, I just want you to be aware that I will be sending out the information, and that I do, would really appreciate the individual feedback to kind of help guide that decision.
Sure. From my perspective, setting a precedent to help fund gaps in UACOG's budget, I think, is a bad precedent. Although they are a good organization, I know that do lots of good things, but they do have they are an organization composed of counties, and I think it's important to maintain that.
Okay, thank you all. Any other discussion on that? So I'm going to move on. Thank you all. Good discussion. All right. Discussion number 10. It's introduction and first reading by title only of Ordinance 7, Series 2024, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City Setting the Compensation of the City Administrator. I would invite the City Administrator to give a staff report.
Actually, it will be Catherine.
So you have in front of you the new annual compensation for the city administrator at $168,019.28. This represents the increase due to the performance component of his evaluation and a 4% cost of living adjustment.
Thank you. Any questions of council? So that takes it out of it. Ryan is not in a volunteer position, then we actually compensated for his time. I'm just kidding. You know I had to do that, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion on that? If not, I'd like to have a motion and a second. Who'd like to make the motion?
Oh, go ahead. Mr. Mayor, thank you. I move to approve ordinance number 7, series of 2024.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Kathy. Any discussion on that motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say that this is a result of a process. This is not just a simple write it down on a piece of paper, but there's actually quite a complicated process that we go through as council members to sit down with the administrator and review past performance and look to the future. And so that I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That's true. We all spend a lot of time on a lot of things, budgetary and otherwise, and I really appreciate that from all of you that have contributed to that. So having, we have a motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Councilmember Dennehy. Councilmember Maloney.
Aye.
Smisher.
Aye.
Stein.
Aye.
Tracy.
Aye.
Worthington.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Aye.
Okay, then this concludes tonight's meeting. The next meeting will be November the 4th, and will be daylight savings time, fall back, right? The clocks adjust on the 2nd. So if you have your old clock, you're going to miss our meeting. No, you'll be in time, won't you? Anyway, we're adjourned.